Welcome to Under the Wing Helmet. I'm Kyle Simmons, and I'm joined by former Michigan and NFL offensive lineman Thomas Guynes, and a host of the ASAP Elite podcast, Rob Penn.
What up, though?
This week's episode is sponsored by Jabs Gym. Learn the fundamentals of boxing through high-intensity strength and cardio workouts with locations in Metro Detroit, the Eastern Market, Ferndale, and Birmingham. We would also like to thank Juke. You can purchase their gear at jukefootball.com. Last night, the number 1 Wolverines defeated number 4 Alabama 27-20 in overtime at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. J.J. McCarthy went 17-27 for 221 yards and 3 touchdowns. Blake Corum had 19 carries for 83 yards and a touchdown, and Roman Wilson had 4 catches for 73 yards and a touchdown. The Wolverines' defense stepped up big with 7 sacks, including 5 in the first half, and they kept Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe in check. The win gives the Wolverines their first win in a college football playoff and a trip to Houston to play for the national title. In my opinion, the Wolverines dominated the Crimson Tide pretty much the whole game, with the exception of special teams play. But we'll start with Thomas. What are your thoughts on the win versus Alabama?
Obviously, huge win. You know, we kind of got that monkey off our back, the proverbial monkey, if you will, reference first round of the playoffs. What I love about what took place in the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all, I feel that it was most befitting the Michigan Wolverines to play this game in that bowl game. Leaders and best, champions of the West. Us being able to go back out to the Rose Bowl and come out with a huge W over a highly touted Alabama team, a Nick Saban coached Alabama team, perennial SEC powerhouse. All of the things that were in the making for it to kind of, you know, and I think not only just myself, but there were a lot of other learning individuals that thought that this game was going to be, how would I put it? Not just a hard fought game, but it was going to have to be one of those games where the Wolverines came out hitting on all cylinders in order to pull this one out. Go back to defense. You spoke about the defense. Coach Mentor, the defensive coordinator, came out with a great game plan. I've been saying it time and time again, especially after watching that Georgia game. The key for our defense to be successful against this Bama offensive line, you're going to have to make those big boys move. I believe they had at least 3 offensive linemen that were at least 350. You got a true freshman playing at the left tackle spot. Make them move, make them think, make them see some exotic looks, get them guessing. Where is the blitz coming from? Make their communication muddled. Make the things that are taking place up front unclear. And you saw that starting to pay dividends. Obviously, we had 5 sacks within the first quarter. But I think also, too, based off the play, especially of our nose guard, the center started to get, as we like to say, a little bit shook. When you start to see him short snapping the ball, we had so much movement, slants, and looping and twists that were taking place. B gap blitzers, I don't think they were really comfortable as far as understanding their assignments and then knowing where the pressure was coming from and where to slide the protection to. I believe that caused some frustration between their quarterback, Milroe. There's a couple of times they caught it on camera where Milroe was just kind of like looking at his O-line, what the hell? But the other piece to that as well is that we kept him in check from the standpoint, keeping him within the pocket. I thought we did a relatively good job of setting hard edges and keeping him in the pocket, not letting him use his athleticism to escape to the perimeter and get huge yardage. He got some plays in there, but overall, I believe we did a really good job as far as keeping him in check. Offensively, once we got going, I thought our offensive line did a really good job. I was surprised that Bama didn't bring as many run blitzes as they did against Georgia. Based off that Georgia game alone was one of the reasons why I felt like up front we were going to have some issues in this particular game. With how our boys came out and played, we played inspired football, we played smart football, I think we made, 2 penalties in the game. Roman Wilson had a big penalty, but it didn't really affect us because we still had the first down. And we also had a roughing the passer. It was an unnecessary roughness with our fullback that basically drove the linebacker to football hell. So that all being said, I'm just, again, ladies and gentlemen, it's football. We played a really disciplined game. You spoke about special teams, and we'll delve into that a little bit later. But overall, the game plan was in check, and especially on the defensive side of the ball. My only detractor, if you will, especially defensively, I felt like we got off the gas in the third quarter, and we tried to play a little bit more base instead of continuing what we did in the first half. Was really expecting to see some greater adjustments made by Bama. But overall, I think our coaches did a fantastic job. We came in with a great game plan. And you really saw our boys not just think and not just go out here and play. These kids really believe. Sometimes you'll watch teams play and they'll say all the right things just because they are the right things to say. But based off of our body language, based off of our level of play and the intensity that we played with, you can really tell our kids really did believe that by hook or by crook, we were going to make this happen and come out with this W. And I think that's going to be the biggest selling point, which is what is going to win us the chip. And I'm calling it right now, is that I think that we have the best overall team, not from the standpoint of athleticism, but just from the standpoint of the unselfishness that these kids play with, wanting to win for each other, not just for self.
Now, Rob, what's your take on last night's win in the Rose Bowl?
Well, first of all, I want to go back and really illustrate the feeling that I had watching that game from beginning to end. It took me back to, Inkster, Michigan in the 80s, with my grandfather, and hearing "Welcome to the Granddaddy of them all." It really touched me, and to have us finally come out and completely, like Coach said, continue to climb that apex, getting hit in the mouth, adjusting to the unexpected, then coming out on top. Man, this is why I got this tattoo on my arm. You know what I'm saying? This is why I bleed maize and blue. This is why my whole household understands that. You know what I'm saying? This is real. First of all, but it was a tale of two halves. We didn't dominate that whole game, like you said, first of all. They came out and they made the necessary adjustments in that second half. Just so happened they weren't able to sustain that when it came down to putting their hands in the game of the defense. That's where our power and that's where our advantage really was on display. It kind of had me worried because they could run. Like I said, I brought it up to you earlier. That McClellan, man, he's special. That running back at Alabama, and what he did to my brother Steele in that whole one-on-one, and he gave him and bust for that 70-yard, for that 15-yard touchdown. Yeah, man, I was kind of worried then. I can't lie, but like I said, the defense showed why this is why this is a legendary team. I'm also on record this season saying that this may be the best team in the history of the program. You get what I'm saying? I also said that about this defense. Legendary. I want to tip our hat. We fought all the way through. We didn't give up, and we won the game, tenderizing ribs with 3 yards in the cloud of dust. You know what I'm saying? So that's about it, man. Thomas explained everything.
And one of the things that I also want to touch on, and Rob, you touched on it as well, based off all the adversity that these young men had to traverse all year, I believe that the things that we went through from the beginning of the season, not just with the team, but also with the coaching staff as a whole, has had a galvanizing effect if everybody down in Schembecker Hall. When you just take away the game itself, but when you watch the body language, when you listen to these kids talk, when you see the true joy that these guys have just in reference to being around each other, when you said the greatest team in Michigan history, again, I'm not seeing it from an athleticism standpoint, but I'm saying as a unit.
Yep.
This is really that X factor that has, in my opinion, separated this team from every other team that has come through at Michigan. Obviously, the cherry on the Sunday is us winning the chip next Monday, going out against a very talented Washington Huskies team. Also, again, from a historical aspect, because again, I thought that based off of the Pac-12 basically being dissolved, us being in the hunt and Washington being there, what better Rose Bowl to have would be
Mhm.
to pit Michigan Wolverines, Big Ten school, Washington Pac-10 / Pac-12 school in that Rose Bowl, where historically where these two conferences would meet. I thought that would have been a more um, fitting way to end at least this particular chapter of the book, so to speak. But when it's all said and done, Big Ten, Pac-12, for all the marbles, what are going to be some of our key components in order to really, as we like to say, finish the job, finish this journey? I really think that it's going to be us being able to, I don't want to say stop, but contain Penix. Going back, watching some of that game film against Texas, I feel like that our defensive line can get to him. Now, there's a difference between getting to him and getting him down. I almost feel like Penix is a little bit more elusive than Melro. I definitely feel like Penix has a much better arm. And when you look
Oh,
at the
yeah.
receivers that he has to work with, no skill positions from the wideouts to their tight ends, they definitely have some weapons on the offensive side of the ball. Now, that being said, Washington has won the Joe Moore Award this year, top offensive line in the country. They just had their trophy delivered to them this week, I believe. Well, at least within the last 2 years, and especially with us having won it the last 2 years,
Yeah.
almost winning that award has kind of sort of been, kind of a bad luck piece for the team, whoever has won it. So hopefully we can keep that tradition going. But I firmly believe that our defensive front seven is going to be able to get to that young man. It's just all about us making sure that we're getting sure tackles. We had the opportunity to touch him to get him on the ground.
Mhm.
And secondly, um, on the back end, on the second half, I think one of the best stats that I saw was Will Johnson. I don't think they targeted whoever that receiver was that Will was D'ing up more than twice that whole game. Basically, he was, how they said Revis Island. We had Will Island during this last game. So Will needs to come out and have another great game. Rob, I want to touch base on Sandersill in the hole with the missed tackle.
What?
I felt bad for Mikey because they put him in such a bad position. That was reminiscent of when Donovan Edwards busted on O State at O
Ohio
State.
State.
It was damn near the same play, same side, gap
Whew.
scheme play, come down, get the hook,
Yeah.
get the linebacker sealed off, and the hole opened up like the
One
Red
on
Sea.
one.
And it was 1-on-1. But Mikey was at such a disadvantage. First of all, you have all that ground to basically play in, but the running back's coming downhill while Mikey was stationary.
Yeah.
Yes, should he have made the tackle? But I'm like, I don't know anybody in college football who was going to make that tackle in that particular play. So,
Yeah.
hats off to their running back, their offensive line. They did the damn thing. But son of a bitch, bro. I felt
Yeah.
bad for young Mikey right there. But Mikey did have a really good game outside
Yeah.
of that
Yeah.
one play.
Yeah. Now, let me piggyback off that Washington team. First of all, that Roman Duzier is something special. But with the
Beast.
addition of the other three, let's
Yes.
go five deep with our somebody that we know in Mr. Giles Jackson. Our transfer. You know,
Right.
also another thing that I have to bring up is their running back. He got hurt last night in the last play of that crazy play. You know what I'm saying? The last play
Hmm.
to get Texas that opportunity. So they're down. So they'll be pretty much one dimensional. But my third point being, this is not our first go around with Mr. Penix. You remember during the COVID
From
season?
Indiana.
Yeah, man, that was a damn good Indiana team. You
Right.
know, yeah, for
Right.
real. And I think if I'm not mistaken, it's 35-20. Indiana beat us. The last time they beat us, and the first time they beat us in a while. And that's the team
Right.
that every year we play Indiana. That's what we speak about. We speak about that team.
Hmm.
How we need to make sneak up on us and things of that nature. But yeah, it's gonna be a contrast of styles. We
I
just
definitely
play.
feel like,
Uh,
yeah, no, I mean, just to your point, I think obviously we're going to try to establish the run. Uh, the Huskies bring a very dynamic
mhm.
defensive front seven. I don't really see them being bruisers,
Hey,
but
real,
they're very athletic.
real quick, this is Ohio State with C.J. Stroud.
Yes.
To a T.
Good
Yes.
comparison.
Yeah,
Yes.
to a T.
Great
And now at
comparison.
the same time, last year they were missing. Ohio State was missing their number one, Travion Johnson at Ohio State last year. They were missing him when we played him. Also, same type of thing. You know,
Right.
it's going to be real tenderization. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, again, I firmly believe that Mentor has to come in with a similar, maybe not the same, but the concepts, the mindset of creating confusion up front for that offensive line. But not only just creating the confusion, our ability to keep Penix in the box, keep him contained, and to put bodies on him. The one thing that I saw with Melro, it was almost like he was gun shy about tucking it and running. And I'm just, again, there seemed to be some disconnect between him and his offensive line. It was almost like, I don't trust you guys. Slightly, I'm pissed off right now. And it's because of you guys, I'm not looking good. And I just kind of felt like in the body language and everything else that took place, there was some internal finger pointing going on. And I think that kind of, was a big detractor to the overall continuity of that offense.
After 5 sacks and 9 hurries in one half of football, you would be too. You know that.
Oh,
and now, like you
hey.
said, that threw off the line. Boys start skipping the snap in the second half.
Yeah.
You know, man, they were flustered, man. And like I said, we only got to them twice in the second half, but we had a lot of many hurries, and he really showed some athleticism too. And a couple times he scooted out the pocket,
But that was the other thing too that I want to talk about is the amount of holding that was taking place by the Alabama offensive line. We were getting great pressure up the middle, and Grant and Mason. And I'm looking at I'm like, these kids are getting tackled, and it's right in front of the umpire. We getting no laundry thrown.
Yeah.
Bro, I don't want to say. I'll just say this: my faith in competent officiating is slowly starting to dwindle. We can go back on the NFL side of things when you sit back and watch the Detroit Cowboys game, and just right, and some of the things in which I saw during this past game, as far as their unwillingness to make some calls that were clear cut.
Mm-hmm.
You go back to Bredesen and the block that he had, our fullback had.
Yep.
I'm like, it wasn't like he jumped up and gave him a Macho Man Randy Savage elbow. He put the kid on the ground, and we've seen it time and time again. If you got a kid that gets put on the ground, but he's a hustle guy, gets up and goes and makes
you lay on top of him. Yeah.
Right. So Bredesen went in basically what we used to call he fatted him.
Yep.
Didn't lead with the helmet, but again, gave him that extra oomph, took him to football hell and call it a day. But when JJ basically gets slammed, there's no call. There was several times within the game that I almost just felt like Bama was getting some home cooking by the officiating crew. Luckily, we took it upon ourselves not to leave it up into the hands of the referees. We went out there and balled and made the plays that we needed to make. But it's going to be something that's interesting to watch. And the reason why I bring that up is I firmly believe there's still this undercurrent of dissent and hate for the Wolverines. And not so much the boys themselves, but just the program as a whole, and in particular, Coach Harbaugh. There's still some people, in my humble opinion, I don't have any inside information. This is just me as a learned individual with a learned eye. I still think there's some people in some pretty high positions that are definitely not happy to see the Wolverines in this position, and especially with Harbaugh winning. I go back to, I was watching some reports today with Paul Feinbaum. This guy, even in the way that he said Jimmy's name, it's like he was giving us these underhanded sort of congratulatory statements, but he was still trying to sprinkle some salt in there at the same point in time. Bro, at the end of the day, the boys went out there, they shook up the world. There were a lot of detractors. And honestly, like I said, just based off of what I saw in the eye test, I always feel like we're going to win every game just because I bleed that maize and blue. But from a intellectual or analytical side of things, I definitely foresaw us having more trouble with Bama than what took place last night. And so this is one of those times where, hey, I'm happily wrong. I was pleasantly surprised. And I definitely feel like based off of this performance, these kids are ready to go do something special. So I'm super excited for next week.
Hey, allow me to bring something up. I want to go back on the road to tape to Arizona State versus Washington. I think it may be week 8. Washington barely escaped out of that game 15-7.
Mm-hmm.
We had Arizona State, that defense was swarming. You had freshmen like in CJ Fight, just having Penix run for his life, and they could not get clicking. They haven't seen this type of defense since then. If they had that same trouble, we follow that same game plan, we might keep them under 10 points.
But that's the other piece, too. I don't think anybody's seen this defense.
Mm-mm.
To my recollection, it's the amount of havoc and wreckage that Mentor was unleashing within that defensive scheme. I don't recall seeing that as consistently throughout a game this whole season. I don't know if that was something they were just kind of holding in the bag or based off of bowl preparation, some things in which they were able to cook up. Yeah. But like I said, I was loving that.
When we averaging 7 points a game, giving that up, you don't have to do anything exotic. You know what I'm saying? Right. We were just straight up bully ball, and that's what we love.
Our ability to play base.
Yep, yeah, but, it was beautiful, the whole season.
But when we went base in the third quarter, having some success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, like I said, those were the things that were giving me pause, not from a player perspective, but from a coaching standpoint. Why are we not, we say press the gas. In that third quarter, you're supposed to put your foot through the floorboard.
Yep. They did a beautiful job, though, man. And once I seen that this game came down to our defense, I knew we had it. And that's the beautiful thing. That's the beautiful thing. First of all, no one can run against us. We know that. I was saying you gotta be a I don't know how to say it. The only person to have success through the air was a Tua Tagovailoa. I can't say it.
Let's just say the Terps.
Yeah. So hopefully we don't get that again. What I'm saying? That can really have us on our heels if they follow that Maryland game plan. Now I did want to bring up the masterpiece that was painted yesterday by Jim and his staff, especially on offense, when they came out in the second half and we got down and we went run, trick play, run, pass. It was beautiful. The sequences, you know what I'm saying? I kind of seen them setting up everything to move the safety up in the box to get a single high, to pop it over their head. Kind of like last year during the Ohio State game. It didn't happen like that, but it was structured and strategized to follow the same concept. Everything set up the next play. You know what I'm saying? Or a sequence of plays. They were all set up together. And as an offensive coordinator, man, it was beautiful to watch, man. And God, man, if that dude don't look like Bo Schembechler, man, the diet version.
No, what I loved about it as well, and again, that was a very astute assessment on your part. As we like to say in the tactical world, we use our pistol to get to our rifle, meaning that I may, I'm chipping away at you. I'm chipping. But hey, as soon as I'm able to get to where I'm really trying to get to, then we can start taking the top off of things.
Close quarter combat, baby.
Exactly. And I really love the way from the motion. So, and as I said before, I was looking to see more run blitzes out of them based off that Georgia game. And I think maybe that's something that Coach Harbaugh saw. Well, how do we keep them from doing that to us, to not have 8-9 guys in the box that's going to really try to suffocate our ability to run? We move these guys around, have them seeing things that aren't really there. You spread them out and get that defensive side of the ball thinking as well. And so I think I'm not necessarily a huge fan of the trickeration. Obviously, we saw what happened with the flea flicker. Great play by their linebacker coming through the A gap. Great job by Blake just getting the ball back to JJ, because that could have been a horrendous play right there.
Yeah.
Going back to the I don't even know what you call it, the back pass back to JJ. JJ
Yeah.
makes an athletic play, one-handing it with the defender in his face while falling backwards and still basically threw a strike for a
Yeah.
huge chunk play. So the exotics work on offense, or when they work, everybody gets excited, but it's the cost benefit analysis. When you're really trying to do
Uh,
some things and you already got this momentum going, sometimes I'm like, dude, just stick with the date that you brought to the dance.
I disagree. I disagree as offense coordinator. Like I say, because they're adjusting, they're locking in, they're making plays, they're changing coverages according to what they just saw. So the whole
Right?
thing is to get them in run pursuit, right?
Yep.
Get them to come up, right? Sweep toss right, give them the flow right, right? Because their ears are already pent back, right? They're not on their
Okay.
heels. This is how you
Okay.
have to do it, bro. This is chess. They played chess. Him and Saban played chess all the way down to the
All
ran off
night. This was
timeouts
a
and
this, hey, this
overtime.
this was a chess
Yeah.
match all night. 100% agree with you.
Yep.
But you continue to talk about Bo Schembechler and those 3 yards in the cloud of dust. Coach Bo said he went yards in the cloud of dust because nothing good can happen when you put the ball in the air. I'm
That's
not
a
saying
lie.
that I'm not saying that I
Okay.
100%
Yeah, yeah.
agree
There was
with
no
that
they weren't running
methodology.
triple options then. Like, come on.
Right.
This is the
But
spread derivative. This is the spread derivative. What should I say? Foundation of football here. You know what I'm
no,
saying? First of all,
I'm the same team. But let's just say, for instance, if those were two ugly plays, one of them worked to our benefit.
Mhm.
All I'm saying is that unless these things are perfectly blocked up, you either A, you get an incomplete pass, B, you get no yardage, C, at worst, you get a turnover.
Hey,
All I'm saying is this: while you're moving the ball, I'd rather you run a play action pass and throw it to the tight end, running a slant across the middle, than you're sitting over here trying to build some things up to run a trick play.
so this
That's
is the
all I'm
difference.
saying, because
This is the difference.
you had too many moving pieces in the
Yeah.
backfield, bro.
This is why this may not work this week, but it will work next week. Because last week, that was a legendary Alabama Saban defense. That linebacker that read that flea flicker, that's a first
Mm-hmm.
rounder. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's a first rounder, probably a 10-year pro in the league right there. The dude read it, reacted, blitzed it, blew it up completely. Washington doesn't have that. They're gonna be susceptible to those. I guarantee it. And then we won't have trouble blocking that front line. Also, they're on record having the 114th ranked passing defense.
Well, based off of what I saw in last night's game, um, I'm hoping, and the reason why I say that I'm hoping, if we line up base and drop back and pass, their two defensive ends wreak havoc. They're athletic guys, they're motor guys. Um, can our tackles stand up to it? Yes, I have confidence in that. But with that all being said, too, I was going back and watching some of the plays that our offensive line, and like I said, I'm nitpicking right now, right? Because we had in my opinion, a masterful performance.
Mhm.
I'm nitpicking, and I 100% admit that up front in full transparency. With the speed rush, I still feel like our tackles, especially our left tackle, is susceptible to the up and under. And if we're not keeping that back end to help, or that back has to pick up somebody else because you're sending that blitzing backer, yes, we are fortunate enough to have a quarterback like JJ who is athletic enough to evade and still get the ball downfield. And that's one of the great things I love about JJ, actually, with both of these quarterbacks, their ability to be on the move, yet still looking downfield, directing traffic, and delivering strikes. Now, that being said, I feel like Penix may have the advantage in that area and his ability to be on the run and throw darts. JJ is still showing me some inconsistencies when he does that.
But he came in that way.
all day,
Yeah, we've been
all
talking about
day.
that forever. Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
he has gotten better.
Yeah, I mean, hell, you know.
He has gotten better. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's kind of one of the things in which I'm going to be looking for. But again, I feel like we are definitely well matched going with the Huskies right now, and just based off of our mindset from what I'm seeing and just talking to some people down at the building and other assistant coaches, like these guys are frothing at the mouth, chomping at the bit, ready to get after it because I really feel like they believe that they are a team of destiny right now. And the only way to really prove that, they got to go ahead and finish the mission. By hook or by crook, you got to come out with a W on Monday.
and how fitting is it that we get the Washington Huskies? Everybody's familiar with each other. These ain't no
Right,
new. This ain't no TCU. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Or Georgia. No, we know each other. You know what I'm saying? And that's the beautiful thing about it, man. It carries on tradition, and it's an all Big Ten championship game.
Basically, because, with the Pac-12, especially those four schools now coming over to the Big
Yep,
Ten,
yep.
definitely
All Big Ten.
setting the tone for next year.
Yep.
And also, I think this is going to have huge recruiting ramifications.
Now, before we get out of here, I do want to talk about the situation going on with Coach Harbaugh. I mean, obviously, for several years now, about this time, we always hear about him going to the NFL, but this year seems to be a little different. So far, he has not signed an extension yet with the Wolverines. And last week, he hired agent Don Yee, who has deep ties to the NFL. So, Thomas, do you think he's going to come back this year or next year, I should say, especially if we win the Natty? What do you think?
I mean, like I said, Jimmy's a lightning rod, and right, wrong, or indifferent, if Jimmy decides to leave based off the job that Coach Sharon Moore has done, I feel like the program is in good hands. As I alluded to earlier, definitely a historic moment for the historic program of Michigan football. Having our first black head coach is going to be huge. If Jimmy decides to leave and maybe head back out west, if not the Chicago Bears, obviously he has West Coast ties. Um, you know, we have to understand the business side of the game, right? I don't know if there's ever really enough money to make a person stay in one particular spot when you already have made all the money, so to speak. So then it comes to, I've conquered this. I've won the national championship. I've gotten my alma mater back in some sort of national conversation. What is my other goal professionally? I got to the Super Bowl, lost the Super Bowl. Do I have another, couple of 2-3 years in me to maybe try to recreate that and knock that off the bucket list? I don't know, but I guess wanted to allude to, either way it goes, I think that we are in a most advantageous position from a recruiting standpoint because of, we win. If Jimmy leaves, great, because I'm still able to go into those young men's rooms and talk to those parents. Hey, this is a coach that we got. Look at his track record. Look at what he did this past season. The program's in good hands. If he stays, hey, we're in good hands. We've navigated and went through, all the shenanigans that's going on this past year, and we still came out on top, even with all the naysayers and all the detractors that people tried to, throw in our way. So when it's, like I said, when it's all said and done, I think that we're in a good space with or without Coach Harbaugh. I just hope that whatever he decides to do, especially once the game's over, it's not a drawn out situation and we can move forward in whatever direction we need to go.
Now, Rob,
Well,
do you think Harbaugh's coaching his last game next week?
Hell no. Look, unlike the NFL, college football is based on tradition. And these coaches live on forever in college football. We're still talking about Bear Bryant. Even with Saban, into that conversation now, moving into the next 100 years. We're still talking about Bo. We're still talking about Woody Hayes. They'll be talking about Dabo. They'll be also talking about Jim Harbaugh. You know what I'm saying? He's here. Like I mentioned earlier, he's Schembeckler light, diet. You know what I'm saying? He'll be here till he retires. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking forward to it. We have a long life ahead of us of Michigan football at its finest. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking forward to that. This is now the house that Jim built. You know, you don't want to go and get forgotten about in Chicago or go to San Francisco and people start kneeling and shit. You know what I'm saying? And there you go. You know, you forgot about what everything you did in San Francisco. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing about it. This is the not for long league, as they call it. You know, but here in Michigan, he'll be remembered forever. He was already in Michigan infamy as a quarterback. Now the coach, you know what I'm saying? No, he'll be here.
Well,
years to come.
I'll end it with this. Only time will tell. We got about a week and a half to go, and everybody will know how it plays out from there. But like I said, I think we're in good hands.
He will outlast our show. We got a show for the next 10 years.
But the one thing that he has done, and which I really feel like was one of his main goals, was getting out from under Coach Schanbeckler's shadow. And I think he's definitely started to pave his own path in his own lineage, so to speak, as far as Michigan football goes. So hats off to Coach Harbaugh. As the song says, he did it his way.
And who has it better than us?
Nobody. And that's all for this week's episode of Under the Wings Helmet. Thank you to our sponsors, Jabs Gym and Juke. Also, be sure to check out Under the Wings Helmet merchandise at asaplelite.com. Be sure to listen to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and the Believe Podcast Network. You can also watch us on asaplelite.com, the ASAP Elite YouTube channel, and the Believe YouTube channel. For Thomas Guynes and Rob Penn, I'm Kyle Simmons. Go Blue.
Hell yeah.
Go Blue.
Sure.